cat in the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
Do you ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
All right, welcome into the View from C-Deck. Another maybe Chicken Little game for Ohio State fans as we come off a 35-7 win against FCS, Youngstown State. Not feeling too great about it. And we have a new challenge coming up with finally a competent offense, maybe more than competent offense coming in against Western Kentucky this week. But I'm just Matt. This here's the Dyerwolf. Casey, what'd you think Saturday as you're watching Ohio State not really struggle? They got up pretty quick, but still struggle with a team in Youngstown State that has no business being on the field with us.
It was just a weird game. Like you said, I'm watching it. Our defense is not really dominating like they should be. They're extending drives, not getting off the field on third down. But then, and they score on the very first drive, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? But then you look at the end of the game, and they only scored 7 points, and they didn't really get a whole lot of yards. It was just inopportune first downs that we were giving up, and it screwed us offensively because we weren't getting as many possessions. So it's kind of a double-edged. It's just not working together very well, offense and defense. But then I thought McCord actually took a step in the right direction. He definitely looked better than last week, I thought.
Yeah.
My bag of chips seemed to do the deed there. Right.
You have to support. I mean, it was your support for sure, Casey.
It was. So I mean, there were glimpses of elite play. I mean, those we didn't have any of those big plays last week. Really, there was like maybe one with Cade Stover. You could call that a big play, but that wasn't down. But I mean, both the Marvin Harrison touchdowns were awesome. The Abuka touchdown was sweet. Both of Henderson's all the touchdowns were really good play. But I really think Devin Brown coming in screwed things up. Like, we're rolling, not necessarily rolling, but we're looking pretty good, right? If you bring Devin Brown in, we might be up 35-7, 42-7 by the end of the third quarter. If you keep it rolling and never bring him in, I think it kind of took us off the rails a little bit.
Well, we did score his only drive that he led in the first half. We scored a touchdown. But it was a weird drive, though. It was very disjointed.
He completed like a couple passes, but he threw some passes I feel like I wouldn't throw as bad as he threw. Like 5 over their head. And I mean, the running game bailed him out, made him look good in that drive. And then he's supposed to be this elite runner. He did not look like it at all, one bit. So give the keys to Kyle. I better not see Devin in the game in the first half this week, because if we played Notre Dame this week, I would be scared shitless. Like, we're going to lose for sure.
Yeah. I would definitely think that. That's like my only saving grace is we got one more maybe tune-up just because of the defense we're playing. The inopportune thing you said, inopportune times that Youngstown was able to make plays. They were 7 for 15 on third down, which is pretty good. Like, you're aiming for a little bit better than that, but that's pretty solid. We're only 5 for 12. We're getting out third down by 2 bad teams so far. And the Devin Brown thing, I said this to you guys in our group text, you and the Haas. I was like, this has got to be the most overstated thing coming out of practice since they kept saying how Dontre Wilson was like totally dominating when his freshman fall camp. When I was like, oh man, this guy's next Percy Harvin, and then he did nothing in his Buckeye career. Like, I mean, he had like a mediocre career, but no big plays ever. Yeah.
I mean, it almost makes me feel like McCord isn't that good if this really was that close of a race, but
I don't think it was.
It was just all smoke and mirrors. But
yeah, all smoke and mirrors.
If that is true, then you're really doing a disservice to McCord and the whole freaking team, because, I mean, just the Indiana game too. If you don't bring Devin Brown in there, randomly after 3 drives, he goes 3 and out. Maybe they get into a rhythm. They get more stuff to work on.
It wasn't random. I mean, both games he came in the 4th drive. That was the plan. No matter what happened, 4th drive, Devin was in. Like, they man, a lot of bones to pick with him right now, and his handling of press conferences is the big one. You can't. He's always just trying to gamesmanship or not really say much, doing coach speak. That's all he does at those things. So sometimes he contradicts himself. He says things that just aren't true. Where I'm at with it, you're right though, because what I know from the reporting on fall camp is that they were splitting the teams up. Basically, there was like 2 teams running all the time so that they get more reps for each quarterback. But you're right, it did a disservice to the team. But I think it's all been a gigantic recruiting thing, is what I think it is. He's trying to make sure Devin Brown doesn't leave. Like, he knew, because my source that was on the team or last year was a coach on the for the team last year. All the time he's been saying McCord's better. He's just better. And it's been very clear in the games that McCord is just has better feel, better handle, and the difference in athleticism has been wildly overstated. I can't believe how, like, when I watch him running these design runs, I'm like, I think McCord could do that.
I was expecting to at least see like JT Barrett.
Yeah.
Run. Like, good enough. If it's 3rd and 3, he's going to power through. He's going to truck somebody over, or he's fast enough to outrun a couple of, like, some of the slower defensive players.
Yeah.
And no, he's like getting chased down.
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily. Oh, and when I thought about, like the running game stuff, I'm like, oh, if he's in, I'm not worried. I'm letting him keep it all day on these reads. Like, I'm playing the running backs just like I did before. And what's our running yard average after 2 games, Casey?
I don't know, but I have a pretty good guess because I know last week was like 4.6. So I'm going to say right at 4.
Yeah, it's still 4.6.
So it's basically the same in both games.
Right, except for this game, Travion was effective and the other guys weren't. But also, we're only averaging 133 yards a game, which, remember, I told you about the stat with the standstill pocket quarterbacks and us being under 200 yards. We're definitely going to be this year because we haven't even played the good defenses yet. Although, actually, Indiana might be a good defense.
They might be. They play Louisville this week, who's not. You can't really tell how good they are yet, but if they hold them to like 17 or less or something, then
they held. I mean, and they played an FCS school. They held them to 91 total yards last week, which, I mean, anybody 91 yards, that's pretty solid.
They're awesome.
My other bone to pick with the defense of the offense. I mean, overall, it's like it seemed okay. We only had 3 possessions in the second half, and again, it was very disjointed because of switching quarterbacks. So the first half was, 28 points and a lot of big plays. You can't be too mad about that.
Yeah.
And
if you double that, if you get 56, that's a hell of a. I'm okay.
O-line had some penalty issues for sure, especially Simmons got 2 big ones. Something to monitor still, but we weren't going to learn much in the trenches, you would think, because of the overmatching, how much we overmatched them in the trenches, just from a recruiting standpoint. But one thing that worries me a little bit, Marv looks a little bit. I feel like he's made more blown assignments and drops in the first 2 games this year than he had all of last year. Now, maybe I'm just holding him to too high a standard, but like, he still wasn't making play. Like, he got open because of blown assignments, both those deep balls. He made good plays after, on the ball as good as he could play. But the big, like, crazy catches and stuff he was made every game, it seemed like last year, isn't happening yet. But I'm not worried about it, but it's just something I'm thinking about. Like, it looks like the focus isn't quite what it was last year. But we'll see as it moves forward. I think they'll get better with, you're right, 100% McCord now. Let's go. Let's see what happens. And Travion, I thought didn't have to have great vision because of the holes.
Yeah.
But he looks right, especially when he's getting the second level. His feet are quick, his cuts are quick. He's been decisive once he gets to the second level. He looked great, I thought, on Saturday.
And I'm hoping that is one gripe I have. It's like, I love that we have the depth, right? Because last year we needed it. It seemed like our whole damn running back room was hurt. Mm-hmm. But you cannot give the maximum carries you have for a running back be 5, or I think it actually was 6 to freaking
6. think Trainham had 6 also. He had 6 for 20.
Did he have 6? But Brown had 6.
Yeah.
But you need I don't care who it is. It's obviously Henderson. But if it's him, he's got to get minimum 10. And that's a floor minimum. 5 is ridiculous. He's trying to make them all happy, which I get. Yeah. But if you're trying to make them all happy, you're not making any of them happy.
It's funny, though, because trying to make them all happy, and this has been, I will say this, because I said this, I was like, it's troubling if you don't get any of your backups in a game against an FCS opponent, and literally the starting offensive line played the entire game. Like, there are 0 offensive snaps for the backup offensive lineman. I hope nobody gets hurt.
Yeah. Although I will say, I didn't hate that because they're by far the group that needs to grow the most. So
no, I get it. I get what he's trying to do, because it's like when the first year with Stroud, when he basically played him the whole game no matter what. And I was like, he's just trying to get his reps up, his confidence up. I kind of get it. But these are still games. Like, if you want to make everybody happy, if you're not getting them into this game, they aren't getting in. And if I'm like Dallin Hayden, who didn't get a carry after how good he was last year, I'm already in the transfer portal. I mean, he can't be right now, but like in my mind, I am. I'm gone.
Yeah, that means he's at best 4th on the depth chart,
and not seeing a snap.
Maybe
not seeing a snap.
Yeah. And to me, I thought he was going to fight for the number 2 role this year. I thought he should have been the lead guy against Scum, but
not that I think that he's. I mean, we're kind of getting a little distracted here, but not that I think he's. I think the role that they carved out for Chip, which is the fullback type role too, is why he's passed up Hayden. They want him to do the fullback blocking type thing, which I haven't seen him be good at yet. Like, just because he's got the build doesn't mean he's got the skill.
Yeah.
Not that he's a bad runner either. Like, I don't want to crap on Chip. Obviously, I think he's pretty good, but Hayden, I think he lost the third string battle because of the role they wanted to train him in at fullback, is what I feel. But I mean, even Mayan took forever. I don't think he got a carry in the first half, did he?
I don't think so. And he ended up 5 for 20 or something like that.
Yeah. And had a nice catch on like a wheel route out of the backfield, which you wouldn't expect out of him.
I will say our crappy 3rd down conversion, which is awful. It's 120th in the country, roughly. We are like 5 out of 7 on 4th down.
Yeah. I would hope so, though, against bad. It's going to be short yardage against bad teams.
Yeah. Yeah.
Moving to the defense, everybody is suddenly worried about the D line. The safeties, I thought they had a bad first drive, but other than that, they played pretty well. Linebackers are studs. I mean, Eichenberg, again, had a great game, and Chambers is all over the field still. The D-line, though, we both have been wanting to see, like both games, we both said we want to see some sacks. We want to see some pressures. And the interior did okay. Mike Hall got a sack, and they made some havoc. The D-ends, though, are non-existent. And I was watching, like I told you, out of kind of boredom of this game, I was very closely watching the D-line on every snap. And I did not like what I saw on the D-ends. They're not quick off the ball. They're getting blown off. Like, they're getting blown off the ball easily sometimes. Like, little chips are knocking them back. And I said to you, Sawyer, a straight punch, the initial punch from the offensive tackles is jolting him, like, in a way it shouldn't be. And I'm like, I'm worried.
Yeah. And I don't think this is going to happen because, I mean, I like Larry Johnson a lot, but he's never really – he's been kind of like Urban, where he will not bench a veteran guy that's star-studded, blue chip for a guy like Caden Curry, who –
just produces when he's out there.
Yeah, he gets limited snaps, and he looks better. So, but I kind of hope he gets more playing time, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah. And what's stunning to me, though, is like watching those guys. I mean, they're third-year juniors who are 5-star recruits, and they're getting knocked off the ball by FCS offensive linemen. And I watched a lot of guys like coming in here, like Zach Harrison too, and I'm like, they're not getting faster. Like, the first step of these guys, like, I was hearing that, like, they're not getting off the ball well at all. And I don't know if it's coaching, like they're being told to be conservative or whatever, but like several times I watched JT Tuimoloau's, his lineman he's across from is taking the step in his back and stance before he even moves off the off the line, which means that you're getting a horrible jump off the ball. I don't care how fast you are if it takes you a half second. And I thought that was a problem with Zach Harrison a lot too. But without the speed and the lack of strength that I'm seeing, like I'm kind of questioning if Marotti is still Marotti. You know what I mean? Like we got some freaks like other places, so maybe he is. But then I'm like, is it just those guys on their own? Because the team as a whole seems we can't get a push on the O line, we can't get push on the DNs. Do you think something's wrong?
It certainly seems like it. And my glass half full thinking was maybe with all those big plays last year, maybe they're trying to contain the edges instead of rushing more, which it could be. But you're right. I started watching Sawyer too, and he just didn't look as good as the guy on the other side of the freaking ball against an FCS school. Like, yeah. But we are preventing big plays against two crappy opponents so far. I mean, if we're being honest, we really aren't going to know how good we are until Notre Dame, flat out. I don't think.
Well, we're going to find out a little bit this week, but right before we move on, I did forget Denzel Burke finally gets an interception. First pick by a cornerback at Ohio State in over a year. They had 0 last season, which is a joke. But he has looked tremendous so far. And Nick Benson, like he's not amazing yet, but he's been really solid. And I'm very pleased with the cornerback play so far.
He's looked like his freshman self again. Finally,
maybe better. Yeah, he's looking good. He
could be. I mean, why can't everything be good at the same friggin' time?
That's a good fucking question. Also, one last thing before we move on. They talking about the lack of possessions and kind of using that as an excuse. We talked about this last year. Stop making excuses. It's like every time the offense struggles at all, there's some sort of excuse. Last year, my favorite being that we got the ball too close from turnovers against Iowa, and that's what screwed up the pass. I'm like, wait, what? Stop making excuses. Like, your players are going to start. That's what I mean. Your players are going to take on your personality. If you're an excuse maker all the time, they're going to think it's okay to make excuses. Yep. Like, just be better.
Yep. I was telling you before, it's like, I mean, he's right. We're getting less possessions, but look at the film. We're not getting off the field on defense on third down. Yeah, they're not scoring a whole lot of points, but they're turning. If a drive is 3 and out, if they pass the ball once or twice, you're getting off the field in a minute of gameplay. If they get 1, 2, 3 first downs and then punt, that's like 5 minutes. That's gone.
Yeah,
get off the.
And we're not converting third downs, which is why you're not on the field anymore. So, like, it's on you. If you're 5 of 12 on third down, that's on you. And I'm just sick of hearing excuses for it. Just go get better. But this week will be a good chance for them to get better, and a good chance to see all the problems that we're talking about today. New set, new week against Western Kentucky, a team that's going to throw the ball around the freaking yard. Their quarterback led the entire NCAA in passing yards last year for a quarterback. They're going to be winging it, and we know they're going to be winging it. So the conservative, maybe we should play, try to play stout against the run to DNs. They only do that this week. They can pin their freaking ears back. So we better see pressure out of them, right?
We better see pressure, but I've also read a little bit about them that quarterback gets the ball out quick.
Oh, yeah.
So the chance for sacks might not be as much as you might think for how often they're going to pass it, but we better damn sure see some blitzes and if they don't get the sack, they're right there. But I want, at least 2 or 3 sacks. That's what I want to see.
Right. I know it's a short passing game, which plays into what we're good at in the secondary, which is we're athletic and can run, and we're long too. So I think it plays in well to us. But so I don't have to see 5, 6 sacks, but I need to see a lot of pressure, like a lot, and them being back there like Chase Young was every damn play. Like that's what I need to see.
Yep.
Offensively, I mean, so they've scored 41 and 52 against bad competition. South Florida, who's terrible now, and Holy Cross. they've given up over 20 to both those teams too, which again, bad competition. I don't think are like, and they're allowing 264 yards a game rushing. So this could be a very good rushing game for us, and work on everything else, work on the continuity, and keep McCord in the game. Because you're right. I don't need to see any more Brown, but offensively, I just like to see more of what we saw in the first half from the offense while McCord was in.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a bigger deal than maybe some people might think. Just the fact that McCord's in the whole freaking time. Just, you don't have to worry about looking over your shoulder. The center doesn't have to worry about, hiking it to just a different feel, and the receivers getting a different ball thrown to them, all that crap. It's the same consistently. I think that's going to pay huge dividends. And, I mean, we could, even if we do what we did to Youngstown State in the first half, which it wasn't blowing the doors off, but 28 points in the first half, I'm going to be happy with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's fault. I mean, it's a 56-point game. And, yeah, no excuses about the clock. And another thing about the clock, is USC having trouble with the clock, Casey?
Or Oregon.
Or Texas. I mean, Texas just scored 34 on the road against Alabama. We scored 35 at home against Youngstown State. I mean,
I will say it's like, I was trying to think of a metaphor for it, but it's like everything working together, and then it can snowball, right? Like, maybe I haven't looked, but if the other team isn't milking the clock, like both of our opponents have been, if you're not off the field on third down, if you're not converting third downs, it all is, it's like the perfect storm. And it seems like that's what it's been the last two games. Now, Oregon, I don't think we could have possibly scored 81 points against Indiana or Youngstown State the way that they were playing. Like, even if we scored every single possession, we weren't scoring that many points. So it's kind of, I don't want to say luck, but it's like just the way that the game flows has a big role on it with this new play clock rule. But you just have to be more efficient with your possessions, and on defense, you've got to get off the field quick.
Right. Like I said, Texas scored 21 points on 11 plays in the fourth quarter of the Bama game. Go do that, and you won't have to worry about that damn clock.
We did that shit all year last year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Constantly big plays. But we can't. I mean, it's a lot of new pieces. I'm not as worried about the offense as I was after week one, and I'm not totally worried about the defense. But if we can't get pressure, I mean, we'll skip ahead 1 week here. Notre Dame, they got a really good O-line, and especially at tackle. They're going to neutralize our DNs. I have no doubt about that. And Hartman's good. They're going to put up points because you can't guard forever against. I mean, they're luckily their skill positions aren't that great, so we could get sticky enough that we can hold them in check, maybe 21 to 24 points. Can we go get that on the offensive side on the road in a hostile environment? I don't know.
Yep. It's funny. Now all of a sudden, you're right. I'm not as worried about the offense. I'm pretty much okay, not worried or thrilled about every position group except probably the two most important. Offensive line, defensive line are the two worst groups, in my opinion, that we have, and they're by far the most important. I guess quarterback, but if you could pick one position group to be dominant, what would you pick? Probably offensive
O-line, yeah.
Yeah. And then what would be your second? Probably defensive line.
Probably, yeah. Because we've had the dominant quarterback for years and hasn't quite netted us what the main goal is, which is the national championship. So speaking of, end of the podcast, Casey, how much confidence did you lose? Because I'm not even going the other way in our national championship case.
Well, you mean compared to how I felt last week?
Yes.
I'd almost say it's about the same because I dropped last week from the start of the season, and I feel better about McCord. I feel better about just our defensive backs as a whole. Our linebackers are studs, like you said. Our running backs, I was worried about Trey in the first game, but he looks back to himself. We'll see what he does this week. But then now all of a sudden I'm really concerned about the DNs. So I think I stayed flat.
Flat's not always the worst thing. I think mine dropped a little more just because. Can you think of the last national champion who only won by 28 against the FCS team?
No, I cannot. I mean,
Me either.
I don't know FCS that well, but the 14 season.
We didn't play an FCS team. We played Navy, and then we played Virginia.
Yeah, Navy. They're not FCS, but they're and we only won by like 19 or something.
They weren't that bad then. That's when they had Keenan Reynolds, who's like the all-time leading rusher as for their program or whatever. Their quarterback was pretty good, but I just don't see it as in that. Like, we've seen national championship teams or teams that are close. I mean, where would you rate this team in the last 15 years? Since 2011, since Urban got here.
So 2012 is the first year?
Yeah. Is it the worst? I think it's the worst right now. I mean, maybe through 2 games you would have rated 14 worst, which is a good sign, I guess. But
worst. The irony is, I think the worst team since then is 16 when we actually went to the freaking playoffs.
And won 3 top 10 games.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think's the worst other than this year since 12? It's definitely not 12. I would not say it's 13. Obviously not 14, not 15. It could be, it's either 16, 17, or 18, pretty much.
Shoo. I don't think any of them are that bad. That's why I think this team is by far the worst that I've seen so far. I mean, we'll see how it plays out, but they could always make huge improvements. But right now, man, Indy, I don't know what the line is yet on the Indy game, but if they're getting any points, I'm taking them. I'm telling you that right now.
The worst team since 2012 and maybe one of the hardest schedules we've had.
Yeah. Rough combination. All right. Well, on that happy note, that'll end this podcast. Like and subscribe, comment on our video. Give us some sort of reason to live, damn it. I guess at least Casey's got the Browns. Looking studly. But we'll get a gambling podcast. Oh, one good thing. Check out our gambling podcast. This man went 5-0, Casey, the Dyerwolf here. I went 4-1. It was a good week. You should definitely be following us. But we will see you guys next time.
Hey, guys. Oh, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
A rich man's world.